Hello, I'm Dr. Ross Walker and welcome to the Checkup. Hello, Dr. Ross Walker, welcome to the Checkup. I want to talk about today dairy products. Are they good for you or are they bad for you? Now, recently, a medical item came out with the headline, dairy products increase cancer risk. So if anyone didn't delve into that study, they would have thought, oh, I shouldn't drink milk because it's going to give me cancer. So I'd like to actually analyze what that study actually said. This study was a study out of China that came from the China Biobank of 510,000 people looking at their genomes and looking at their life habits and seeing the link between all of these. And the interesting thing about China as opposed to Western nations, Caucasian nations, is the Chinese don't drink a lot of milk. So they looked at the average intake of dairy products in China, and it was the average was probably around 40 grams a day. For the regular users, the average was closer to about 90 grams a day. When you look at, say, the average consumption in Western society, say from the UK Biobank that I've mentioned before on the Checkup, the average dairy consumption there's about 300 grams a day. So we consume so much more dairy in Western society. But it found that 20% of the Chinese population studied were regular users of dairy. And when they compared them to the seldom or never used dairy in the population, they found that there was about a 12% increased risk for liver cancer, a 17% increased risk for breast cancer in the women who use dairy regularly. And you'll say, well, that's a Chinese population. And here's a fact that a lot of people don't realize, that over 90% of people living in China are lactose intolerant. So they lack the enzyme lactase that breaks down the milk sugar lactose. And therefore, if they're exposed to dairy products, then that may cause a much greater irritation of the gastrointestinal tract. And with that, damage what we call the microbiome, which is the colony of bacteria living in the gut of people who, living in all of our guts, but certainly if you are lactose intolerant, you have a different microbiome than people who aren't lactose intolerant. And it's highly likely that altered microbiome then liberates different chemicals into the bloodstream that may affect the liver and therefore increase risk for liver disease, may affect hormones and therefore increase risk for breast cancer. Because when you look at the data linking dairy consumption in Western societies, there's certainly no increased risk for any forms of cancer. And in fact, a number of studies have shown that people who regularly use dairy in Western societies have around a 25% reduction in things like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So when you hear any study giving this alarmist headline, dairy increases your risk for cancer, drill into the study and see what they're trying to actually say and see where the studies come from. That's the Checkup. We'll talk to you next week.